Alright guys, welcome back. So, first thing I'm going to start off with here this time, I've got this spot here cleaned up. I've already got my piece cut out for it. Basically, it's going to go in here like that. Bridge all those gaps there. It's just going to taper back. Following the same line as that top, repeat on the other side and have that part buttoned up. A couple other things I'm hoping to get done in this video is I'm really hoping to start on the engine harness side of things. I've got the XB side cleaned up, so all my blinkers work, all of that side of stuff. Now I need to get this side to work and then mate the two. Hoping to be able to button up a couple other small issues. The throttle cable is all good and installed and everything, but there's a little bit of resistance in that bolt adapter I made, so I'm going to, the plan is to drill it out a little bit bigger and run the little bit of the plastic tube through it. That way hopefully it'll just be a little bit more smooth going through that. Waiting on like 2 fittings to be able to finish up the fuel lines 100%. I still need to wire up the fuel pump. But again, I kind of want to figure out my harness side of things first to figure out if it's going to go to the key or if it's going to go to something back here. And then I'd really like to, just because it doesn't take long, get some of this stuff welded so I can lay my Duraglass down so that can be drying while everything else is nice and warm in here anyways. So I've got a plethora of things. I'm just going to be bouncing around. There's going to be no rhyme or reason to this video, basically just knocking things off as I go. Really kind of almost on the home stretch. I feel like a lot of the bigger stuff is done now. It's this kind of easier stuff but also harder stuff. So there we are. We're gonna start here. Let's get cracking. Alright, so I got this side done. I got the other side done as well. I don't know if you didn't notice that cut there before. What I had to do, when I stepped back, I didn't realize this before, that this side, or sorry, in the back, was pretty level. And somehow the bed rail got kind of torqued in when it got underneath this part. So all I did was just cut there, pulled up so it was flat all the way across, and then just re-welded those. This all gets Duraglass and filler, you know, to kind of round that out once it's done anyways. But that's all tacked in now. Yeah, it's really not that bad. It just kind of bridges that gap there. This back side, honestly, probably wouldn't even need Duraglass because all it is the thickness of the metal there. Oh, I guess there's a little bit of a gap. Well, it's still definitely under 1/8 of an inch there. But up here where we had that bigger tweak, it's a bit there. So that'll get Duraglass. This, honestly, all of it, I'll run Duraglass over top of. Same with over top of this going across. But this is super stout because I think I got 16 gauge. So, you know, overkill. But there's that part. I realized I left my Duraglass at home. So I'm going to run and get that. I'm going to get some more kerosene for the heater so I don't freeze. Come back and keep cracking. Okay, so after a bunch of searching around online trying to find what I could do for my shift cables, I had found one company that does a push-pull cable that they do custom length, well, increments of 6 inches. The problem is it was a Series 30, which is really small compared to the factory shift cable. I found the Series 40 from this company, Westcon Controls. I called them. They said they only basically sell to like big companies more or less. So they gave me a list of distributors and turns out there's one that's actually only in Green Bay. So I called them, they're making it today, and they said it'll be shipped out later today. But basically, what I did was I want a 3 inches of travel. Oops, that's not the right one. 3 inches of travel. I'm doing the bulkhead style, which is like this, where it's got the nut and bolt instead of the clip style. That way my mounting brackets, it gives me a little bit more freedom to make my own rather than the clips, especially because they don't come with the clips. My length is so stupid long, and we'll get to that when we actually have these things come in, but I'm at 15 feet, so I've got 180 inch. But the input load on these at 3 inches of travel is 75 pounds. Looking around online, it says like the average shift is 20 pounds of force, so this should be more than hardy enough to work. The only thing that kind of sucks is it's a 1/4 inch by 20 thread, and the factory shift linkage for the Prelude, I can't just take those off and put them on this. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just get some Heim joints that I can run on these. The problem is there's no Heim joints that I can find that are 1/4 by 28 that have a 3/16. Sorry, that have a 3/8 hole. Everything is like a 1/4 inch, and I need a 3/8 to be able to get into all my stuff. So my plan is to take a solid block of aluminum, and I'll end up cutting it out. I'll tap it for the 1/4 by 28 and then run a nylon bushing in it and use that for my cable ends there, and hopefully that'll work. But we'll get to that when the cables actually come in. I was just really excited that I actually found a place that can make them. So if you are looking for any place, Fleet Pride is the one that's going to make mine. They had a list of other people, but we have a Fleet Pride in Eau Claire, so I figured I'd go with them. They don't actually do the shift cables, so they said the Green Bay one does. So there you have it. So I've got some of my Duraglass laid. That's the fiberglass infused body filler. So it's better for, let me say, bond lines, weld areas. It's just better for the stuff that's thicker than your normal 1/8 inch stuff that you're going to lay filler on. So I've just got a coat on that just to kind of bridge a lot of that gap. I took my throttle cable back apart, and that bolt that I put in the firewall up front, I just drilled that hole a little bigger and put the, oh, I don't know where that went, wherever the plastic lining is, through that, and now it's really smooth. But I totally forgot to show you guys, shift cables came, and these I'm very excited about. So showed you where to get those, but they are same size. Everything's the same as the factory ones. The only difference is the ends, and these are 1/4 by 28 thread, and these are solid part of it. So I'm having troubles finding Heim joints that are this is like a 5/16 hole, but anything that can thread onto this is only a 1/4 inch. So my two options are to buy one that fits this size and weld the nut on, that way it can thread, or cut these off and see if they're solid. I could just weld them directly on, but then there's no adjustment. Although I don't think I'll need any adjustment there because factory, they don't have any, I don't know. I still got to dig into that, but I was just excited that these came because they came yesterday, actually. I just didn't come down. But yeah, they're just a 40 series push-pull, and they're like identical. I got the ones where I can actually run my bolts instead of clips, so that'll be a lot easier for me. But yeah, I think I might either look at that or start doing the wiring harness next. What I'm going to do is I went out and bought some 1/4 by 28 nuts, and I'm just going to thread them on here, weld them all together, then they'll all thread off as one. I'm going to cut the end off of here and then just weld it to that. And then I'll have my ends from my shift linkage. Now, kind of stinks because I will be ruining this good shift linkage that's like $100 and some on eBay, but I don't care. So I'm going to get cracking on that so I can get some shift cables hopefully put in and put a shifter in today. So I've got my cables ran. They're up through the floor. I have a rough idea of where I'd like this to sit. You know, something like that. So what I plan to do is get this back part locked in. That way I can actually figure out where I'm at. So right now these don't line up with where the factory bracket is. So I'm going to take the bracket out because also right now you can kind of see a little bit pinched right there. So it's coming in and then angled back. So I'm going to pull this out. I'm undecided if I'm just going to build something off of, you know, just weld one tab up for this guy and then build something off of, I think this, I don't think I can weld to this. I'll have to check. But if anything, I can just use this as a template for something that can just bolt down right in that spot and then go for that rear one there. But I'm gonna rip that off and see what I can figure out. Okay guys, so as I suspected, it's just that pop aluminum crap. I can't do anything with it other than use it as a template. So what I'll do here, that one that I showed you, that I think I can just build straight up and not have to do too much crazy stuff with it. All I'm going to do is just take this again as my template. I'm just going to draw a little half circle because I know that's all it's going to take. And then I'll go up, up. And it's really not going to need to be that high either. So I'm just going to do something like that, cut that out, and then I'm going to do it a second time. That way it's twice as thick. I mean, this is 16 gauge, but I just want it to be stout, and it's not going to take that much more work to do it twice. So I'll cut that out, cut this one out, and then weld them together, weld it in there, and I'll have one done. The other one, this one, is going to be a little bit more problematic because it sits like way over here instead of here, and there's nothing to weld to, there's nothing to get to. So with that one, I think what I'll do is use this as my template of where my bolt holes are and drop a piece that will basically bolt down, go up, and then it'll go over to that. Because again, there's a wire connector right about in here, so I can't just go straight over. I've got to go up to get around that. But that's the plan for that one. And as soon as I can get these in and locked in place, I can figure out where my shifter's at, where it needs to be, do some adjustments. Once I know that that's pretty good, I'll make sure my linkage routing is okay, make sure, you know, not close to anything, off the ground, etc. And then I'll mount that shifter solid and knock off one of my very stressful parts of this build. Okay, so kind of primitive, kind of cool. That one, the tab's just mounted or welded right on there. This one, I took not C channel, I took a 1x3 square or whatever, 2x4, 1x3. Cut it in half and grabbed some of the bolts that I kept from the other stuff that I took apart on this, and of course, you know, being the same thread, they thread in there because the other ones were really long. So these ones are just some shorties. Just put some 1/4 inch going across there to the tab up there, and you can still get to the bolts from the top, so that's still removable. But now it's mounted solid in there, so now I can at least try and see if it will move for shifting, because I have the front also all bolted down in the shifter. The shifter itself's just not bolted down. But now I'll get to figure that out, and then from there I can figure out where my shifter is going to mount and run my lines and everything. So pretty awesome. So I'm going to get a bunch more of this stuff welded up. And then after I get that done, Drake is going to come through and Duraglass it. So he's a drywall guy and has been curious about this stuff. I think he'd do really well because of the drywall stuff. So I figure no better time to learn than on this car right here. So he's going to give it a whack at laying the Duraglass after I get this welded. While he's doing that, I'm going to go back in and work on the shift cables. So two things about that. One thing, as stated before, I've never done them, so that's going to be my excuse. I didn't make sure that my throw was centered before hooking this stuff up. So the problem I ran into is this one right here. I welded there when it was maxed out, which is fine, except the part where now I can't go any further that way with shift. So what I need to do is take this back off, get it right there. That's neutral. My shifter moves up there. So get it neutral. Now I need to cut this back off, move it over, and attach it, and then weld it. So it's, I don't know, a little bit stupid, but at the same time, I don't really feel stupid because I don't usually deal with shift linkage and that kind of stuff. So it's a lesson learned. So I'm going to get that addressed. After I do that, I'm going to crawl underneath. I'm not going to get it on camera, but I'm going to get the cables routed so they're up, adhered, so they can't move. But I'll get that taken care of. Once that's taken care of, I'm going to build a mount for the shifter to sit up a little bit higher. It sits really low right here, so I want it about there. So I want to make sure everything shifts first. Once I get it in there, I'll build a mount, get that bolted in, and then everything shifter wise will be eliminated off my to-do list. Then I'll probably turn my attention towards that rear wire harness that you've heard me say about 10 times, but I've been procrastinating on it. So that's the plan. So rewinding 3 minutes ago, I said I was going to do this, so that's what I'm going to get cracking on. So, very dirty interior here, but I got the seats pulled out. Well, I had the seats in, got where I felt comfortable with the shifter, got everything marked out, and I pulled the seats out for a few different reasons. The carpet is all bolted down or held down when the seats are bolted, so I wanted to get stuff peeled back so I could actually get in there and weld. Gave me more space. I needed the seats out because I've ordered new ones anyways. And I've got some stuff going on back there later on that I needed the seats out as well. So just a whole plethora of reasons to get the seats out. Now, here's what I come up with for my shifter. This is the Prelude shifter. I just have some really thick steel 1x1 square that, or actually it's 1.5, I think. I just built a pedestal. I welded a top on with a nut welded on the inside, so you can just run, I run my impact and just take this off and the whole thing comes off. The front is, I don't know what the heck that's called. It's from Menards. It's just an angle piece that I think it's probably about a 16 gauge, and it just has a whole bunch of holes pre-drilled in it, and it worked really nice because they lined up and I didn't have to do anything. And what I did is I just cut or I just ground down a little bit there, that way I could fold that flap down. That way I've got basically a square tube going across, and just welded that to it. So everything is really, really solid here. Let's see if we can do this without a seat here, but I mean, we'll go through the gears. Oh, I can't push my clutch all the way in. But yeah, everything shifts now. I just had to extend off the back there for my cable to shift, or sorry, to bolt to. The back half here, all I did was just had to move that one a little bit forward, and everything's good. I don't have my cotter pin set in here, but this is just for the demo purpose. But yes, it's not exactly the most beautiful looking thing, but man, I'm excited, because that was one of the things I was really worried about. So that's going to do it for this video, guys, but thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.